The moment her fingers lifted from the keys, silence wrapped the room like a storm waiting to break. No applause, not even a polite cough, just stillness so sharp I could hear my own heartbeat. And then, like a knife through fabric, came the whisper. That's the poor girl, the one with the single mom. It was barely audible, but loud enough to shatter something inside me. My throat tightened. My palms, clenched on my lap, trembled as if I'd been slapped. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The voice had that familiar chill, the kind you hear in PTA meetings, in grocery store aisles, in pitying glances when they think you're not looking. Zariah stood on stage, all of 9 years old, wearing the yellow dress we'd patched up the night before. Her hair braided carefully the way she liked it. Not too tight, Mom, just soft. She bowed like we practiced. Head down, then up, just enough to make eye contact with the crowd. But there was nothing waiting for her. No smiles, no claps, no acknowledgement that she just poured her soul into a song she wrote herself. Sitting cross-legged on our living room floor with that beat-up keyboard I found at a garage sale. I saw the shift in her face. A tiny falter in her smile. A pause too long. Her eyes scanned the crowd and landed on me. And I knew she was trying to be brave, trying not to break. I wanted to run to her. I wanted to grab her and carry her off that stage, out of that suffocating auditorium, away from the stares, the judgment, the condescension wrapped in polite indifference. But I couldn't move. My legs were concrete. My mouth couldn't form words. Shame rooted me to the seat, not for her, never for her, but for a world that couldn't see the beauty I saw, a world that heard her music and still only saw her worn shoes. And then something shifted. From the back row, a man stood, tall, older, dressed simply in a gray suit that somehow commanded attention without asking for it. He didn't speak, he didn't smile, he just walked. Down the center aisle, slow and sure, like he belonged not just in the room, but in this exact moment. People started turning their heads. A few parents leaned in. The judges glanced at each other, confused. The next performance, a group hip-hop routine, was already cueing backstage, but the man kept walking. Toward the stage, toward my daughter. And as he passed by my row, he met my eyes and gave the smallest nod, as if to say, don't move. I see her. I see everything. Because somehow I knew this wasn't the end of Zariah's story. It was the beginning. They never said it outright, not with words. But you learn to read the pauses, the side glances, the way someone's smile stiffens when you mention where you live, or how your daughter's backpack doesn't have a brand name stitched across the front. We moved to Maple Hollow 5 years ago. Southern Indiana. Quiet, quaint. The kind of place with porch flags, Sunday potlucks, and neighbors who wave, but also notice everything. And I mean everything. Like how Zariah's shoes are always clean, but last season's style. How her lunch comes in a reused grocery bag. Or how I never stand beside a man at school events. Just me. Always just me. One woman at the church potluck once asked, "Do you even have family here?" Her smile was sweet, but her voice sliced like glass. "No," I said, keeping my tone light. "Just me and my daughter." She nodded slowly, her casserole spoon pausing midair. "That must be hard." "Hard? Yes, but not in the way she thinks." I clean classrooms by day, mop floors and empty trash cans while kids walk past me like I'm invisible. At night, I swap my janitor uniform for a faded polo and serve hash browns to strangers at the 24-hour diner off Route 31. Most nights, I don't get home until after midnight. My feet hurt, my back aches. But when I open the door and hear that faint tapping of keys, Zariah, playing something new she's dreamed up, it's all worth it. That keyboard? $15 at a yard sale. The B-flat sticks and one speaker shorts out if you press too hard. But to her, it's a grand piano in a concert hall. She told me once, "Mom, this one sounds like walking alone in the rain, but in a good way." She was 8. At school, she doesn't fit in. Not because she's strange, but because she's quiet, soft. She writes songs about feelings most adults can't name. But to the kids in her class, she's the weird music girl. To their parents, she's the poor girl. And to them, I'm the woman who doesn't belong. The one who can't afford the PTA bake sale buyout. the one who sends her daughter to school in thrift store jeans and hand-mended cardigans. But I never let Zariah see how that stings. I just braid her hair every morning and tell her, "You were made to be different. That's your magic." When she asked to sign up for the talent show, I almost said no. Not because I didn't believe in her. God, I believe in her more than anything, but because I knew what she'd be walking into. They weren't going to hear her music. They were going to see her shoes. I said yes anyway, because maybe, just maybe, this time would be different. And in some ways it was, just not in the way I expected. The first time I heard her play, I stopped in the hallway with a pile of unfolded laundry in my arms. The notes were soft, uncertain, but there was something in them. A question, a memory, a longing. She was only 7 then, legs too short to reach the floor, hunched over a secondhand keyboard I bought for $20 at a neighbor's garage sale. The B-flat key stuck. The volume knob was missing. But when she touched it, it lit up like magic. "Did you write that?" I asked quietly, afraid to break the moment. She looked up, eyes wide. "I think so. It just came out." Zariah didn't learn music like most kids, with lessons and scales and competitions. She learned it like a language she was born remembering. Every melody she played had a name. This one is what it sounds like when you wait too long for someone to come home. Or, this is the sound of a hug you miss. I used to sit on the floor beside her while she played. No words, just music and the hum of the old ceiling fan. But school was a different story. They didn't hear what I heard. They saw her worn sneakers, her handmade lunch, her quietness. They saw a girl who didn't care about TikTok trends or matching outfits, and they didn't know what to do with her. She stopped getting invited to birthday parties. Kids started calling her background noise. One even told her, "You look like a lost kid in a movie." She never cried about it. Not once, but I started finding her songs were getting sadder. One night, she asked, "Is it okay if people don't clap, as long as you believe in your own song?" I couldn't answer right away. My throat closed up, so I just nodded. She smiled, then whispered, "Okay, then I'll keep writing." And she did. Every day after homework, she sat with that broken keyboard and poured herself into something no one else seemed to understand. When the school announced the talent show, she didn't even hesitate. "I want to play them what I wrote." And all I could think was, please let someone hear her this time. Not just the music, but her. Because the pain of being invisible doesn't come from being ignored. It comes from knowing you have something beautiful inside, and no one wants to see it. And that night, she would find out just how invisible they really thought she was. He didn't clap. He didn't whisper. He didn't even blink. He just stood. While the rest of the auditorium shifted in awkward silence, while my daughter stood frozen at the edge of the stage with her music folder clutched to her chest, this man, this stranger in a plain gray suit, rose from the very last row like he'd been waiting his whole life for this exact moment. Whispers rippled across the seats. "Who is that? Is he part of the show?" The judges looked at each other, confused. One of them half stood, uncertain, then sat back down. The air turned electric, thick with something unspoken. He walked calmly down the aisle, hands behind his back, unhurried, unbothered. Every step seemed to hush the room a little more. Even the kids backstage stopped fidgeting. A stillness settled, not the cold kind that had met Zariah's performance, but something warmer, curious, watchful. I couldn't take my eyes off him. Something in the way he moved. He wasn't here to fix anything. He wasn't here to cause a scene. He was here because something had moved him. He reached the front of the stage, turned to the judges, and spoke with a calm certainty that somehow filled the entire auditorium. "Excuse me," he said, voice steady. "Would it be all right if I borrowed the microphone for a moment?" No one answered at first. Then, as if the spell broke, one of the student volunteers handed it to him. He stepped onto the stage, not with flair, not with performance, but like he belonged there. He faced the audience, cleared his throat, and said, "My name is Dr. Elias Monroe. I wasn't supposed to be here tonight. I flew in early to surprise my grandson." A few murmurs. Then he continued, "But I heard something tonight that stopped me in my tracks." He turned slightly, looked toward Zariah still standing off to the side. That young girl played something I haven't felt in years. The room stilled. You could hear the ventilation system hum. I've taught piano at Juilliard for 32 years. I've trained film composers, soloists, symphony performers, and yet what she played just now was raw, honest, extraordinary. He paused, then asked the question that made my heart stop. Zariah, would you honor me by playing your piece again? And may I accompany you? And for the first time that night, the silence didn't feel like rejection. It felt like reverence. She looked at me, unsure, and I gave her the smallest nod through tears I could barely hold back. What happened next? No one in that room would ever forget. No one breathed. Zariah walked back onto the stage like she was walking through fog, slow, unsure, but with something behind her eyes that hadn't been there before. Dr. Monroe stood beside the piano, waiting, not pushing, just being there. He let her sit first, let her take a deep breath, and when her fingers hovered above the keys again, he joined her, not as a teacher, not as a savior, as a shadow, a partner. And then she began. The same song, same notes, same girl, but this time, it was different. This time, her melody didn't float alone. His chords followed hers like soft footsteps through snow, echoing, lifting, grounding. He never overpowered, never corrected, just amplified what was already there. The music filled every inch of the auditorium, even the people who had looked away before. Parents scrolling their phones, judges with checked-out expressions. They leaned in, heads tilted, eyes softened. I looked around and realized no one was whispering anymore. No one was giggling, they were listening. And I was holding my breath, afraid to move, afraid to miss a single note. At the final chord, her hands rested gently in her lap. A silence followed, but not like before. This one was sacred. And then, applause erupted like a storm breaking open the sky. Chairs scraped back as people stood, judges stood, parents cheered. I saw one woman, the woman, drop her phone in her lap, stunned. Someone behind me gasped, "She wrote that?" A man near the front wiped his eyes. The judge who had been typing on his phone earlier stood with both hands clapping like he'd just witnessed a miracle. I stood too. I couldn't stop clapping. My palms stung. My chest ached. Zariah turned her head slowly toward Dr. Monroe and smiled. Small, but sure. And for the first time, I didn't see a child, desperate to be seen. I saw a musician. She stood and bowed again. Not timid this time, but proud, owned, certain. And the room gave her everything it hadn't the first time. As she walked off stage beside Dr. Monroe, I saw parents whispering again. But this time, they were whispering her name. We still live in the same house. The roof still leaks near the laundry room when it rains too hard. My diner uniform still smells like burnt coffee by the end of every shift. And Zariah? She still wears hand-me-down shoes, though now she doesn't seem to notice. Every Saturday, we wake up at 5. It's still dark out. I pack her a thermos of cocoa and she curls into the passenger seat, humming something new she's working on. We drive for an hour past cornfields and shuttered gas stations to a conservatory I never imagined she'd step foot in. She walks through those doors like she belongs there now. And maybe she does. They say she composes with a kind of depth they don't usually see until conservatory auditions, that she feels the notes before she plays them, that her fingers understand grief and longing and joy in ways that can't be taught. But you know what I see? I see my daughter no longer asking the room for permission. She just plays. She plays like her voice matters, like the silence doesn't scare her anymore. And me? I've changed too. I used to think being a good mother meant shielding her from judgment, from failure, from the kind of cruel laughter that doesn't echo but cuts. I thought if I could just work hard enough, keep our heads down, say thank you even when it hurt, we'd make it through unnoticed. But unnoticed is another kind of invisible. And the truth is, Zariah didn't need protection. She needed belief. She needed me to believe that her voice didn't just deserve to exist. It deserved to take up space. Even if no one clapped. Even if they all turned away. Especially then. There's still a part of me that aches when I remember that night. Not the silence, not the sting of that whisper, but the way I froze, the way I almost let her walk off that stage thinking she wasn't enough. I don't know Dr. Monroe's story. I may never see him again, but I hope he knows what he gave her, what he gave me. He didn't save her, he saw her. And sometimes that's what rescue really looks like. To the parents who've ever sat in the middle row, clutching their hands, praying the world would see their child the way they do, this is for you. To the kids who were never clapped for, but kept creating anyway, this is for you. To the women who've swallowed shame so deep it lived under their ribs, this is for you. We don't always get to rewrite the beginning of our story, but sometimes, if we're lucky, we get to reclaim the ending. And maybe, if you've ever been the one left out, talked about, looked through instead of looked at, maybe this story felt like yours too. If it did, leave a piece of it below. Tell me where it touched you. Tell me who saw you. And if you felt something, really felt it, hit like. Subscribe to Revenge Her Way. Not because we asked, but because you know what it means to finally be seen.